In the late 1970s and early 1980s, there was a group of boxers that were seemingly the next big thing after Ali's departure from the sport. Fans know them as the Four Kings. Even if you aren't a big fan of boxing, you've probably heard of at least one of these legends. Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran, Marvelous Marvin Hagler, and Thomas the Hitman Hearns. These kings were the best of the best in their respective divisions. These kings had all faced each other also over the course of their careers. And every time it made for very entertaining fights. And it also showed high-level displays of skill that hadn't been seen in some time. I believe there's something similar to this in this modern era of boxing, just in a heavier division and with vastly different boxers. I'm deeming them the four aces of the modern heavyweight division. Now, before I go into each one, I'd like to explain my reasoning behind this. For one, the Four Kings earn their name by being the most competitive in their divisions. Then, by having accomplished many feats in their careers. Feats like Olympic gold medals, multiple titles in multiple divisions, and wins over other kings. These are the requirements necessary for a group to be given such a moniker, at least in my opinion. With all that cleared up, let's move on to the first ace. Alexander Usyk, the ace of clubs. With a record of 19 wins, 13 of those by KO, and 0 defeats, he's a very talented southpaw boxer with an arsenal of tricks. If you are unaware of Usyk and his feats, then his record on paper may not look too special. However, that couldn't be further from the truth. In 2012, he won an Olympic gold medal. In 2018, he became just the 4th male boxer in history to hold the WBA, WBC, WBO, and IBF titles at the same time. This made him the undisputed cruiserweight champion. With such an achievement and still a relatively small record, he has the potential to go down as the best cruiserweight ever, compared to the likes of Evander Holyfield. However, when asked about this, Usyk himself believes that he has a ways to go in order to be on Evander's level. The impressive achievements don't stop there, though. Recently, he defeated Anthony Joshua to obtain the WBA, WBO, IBF, and IBO heavyweight titles, making him a unified champion at heavyweight. Now, if Usyk wins his rematch with Joshua and goes on to defend these titles multiple times or even achieve undisputed status, then I believe he'd have a very strong case for being the best of the four aces. Next up, the ace of diamonds, Anthony Joshua. With a record of 24 wins, 22 by way of KO, and just 2 defeats, 1 by KO. He can assert dominance by using his size and power, and he's a threat to anyone in the heavyweight division. However, he has been overconfident in the past, which has cost him his titles. Regardless, his accomplishments at heavyweight are to be admired. In 2012, he won an Olympic gold medal at super heavyweight. He's also a 2-time unified champion at heavyweight, holding the WBA, WBO, IBF, and IBO titles, and has a decent resume against good competition, defeating the likes of Vladimir Klitschko, Kubrat Pulev, Alexander Povetkin, Dillian White, Andy Ruiz, and Charles Martin. He definitely gets more hate than deserved for his 2 losses, and in the past, he has proven he can overcome adversity. He won his rematch against Ruiz. Let's wait to see the results of Usyk versus Joshua 2 before we cast too much judgment. Lastly, he's one of the few aces to face another ace, and even in defeat, that's still an accomplishment, considering the fact that Usyk would be a hard fighter for just about any modern heavyweight. The ace of spades, Deontay Wilder. With 42 wins, 41 of which are by KO, and only 2 defeats, both by KO. He also has a single draw. He, without a shadow of a doubt, is the biggest puncher amongst the modern heavyweights. His level of activity is to be respected as well. In 2008, he won a bronze medal in the Olympics. He would go on to win the WBC heavyweight title in 2015 and defend it 10 consecutive times up until 2020. This feat is actually very impressive, considering the fact that it ties Muhammad Ali's record of 10 consecutive title defenses. The last person to have more than 10 consecutive was Vladimir Klitschko, who was a very impressive heavyweight during his reign. Now, it may not be undisputed, and one can argue against the level of competition Wilder's faced. However, even with these complaints in mind, it cannot undermine the significance of this achievement. While I used to be sort of a naysayer of Wilder, I've grown to respect his accomplishments, and I just wish he'd lose with a bit more grace. Last but not least, the Ace of Hearts, Tyson Fury. With 32 wins, 23 KOs, 0 defeats, and just 1 draw, this entertaining tactician needs no introduction. His massive frame and elusive style make him the most tricky of the modern heavyweights. In 2015, he would go on to upset Vladimir Klitschko to get the WBA, IBF, WBO, and IBO world titles. He also obtained the Ring Magazine belts. However, he'd vacate these soon after. But, upon defeating Vladimir Klitschko, he obtained the status of lineal heavyweight champion, something that can only be taken by beating the current lineal heavyweight champion. He'd go on to draw against Wilder later on in his career, but in their second fight, he'd managed to defeat him by KO, ending Wilder's title defense streak and taking his WBC belt. Since then, he's defended his WBC title twice, with a third fight against Wilder, one he won by KO, and one against White, which was another KO. So with 2 wins over another ace, amongst holding several different titles and still being the lineal champ, I certainly hope he doesn't retire before facing Joshua or Usyk. But only time will tell. So, with all of these aces explained, who's the best? Well, I personally think Tyson Fury is the best of the aces at this point in time, and I assume many would agree with me. However, to appease everyone, I made a few different lists of how you could view the aces, with the first one being heavyweight accomplishments only. I have Usyk at the bottom because he has not had that many fights at heavyweight, yet he does have a win over Joshua. But Joshua has more defenses and has fought at heavyweight far longer. Therefore, I believe this amount of experience puts him above Usyk. Then, Joshua's behind Wilder because Wilder has 10 consecutive title defenses, and I believe that's more prestigious than obtaining all the titles and then losing them multiple times. Plus, Wilder has faced the best of the aces and gone on to draw him. And then Fury, I mean, it's enough said. He has the lineal title still. He's technically undefeated, and he's held every title at heavyweight, I think. Now we move on to accomplishments in general. I have Joshua at the bottom of this because while he may have unified the heavyweight titles, he didn't defend them nearly as much as Wilder, and he has an upset loss to Ruiz, and he also was defeated by Usyk. He may have had good competition in many of his fights. I don't think he has the best achievements when compared to these other guys. Moving on to Wilder, I placed him there because 10 consecutive title defenses is far more prestigious, in my opinion, over obtaining multiple titles but not defending them quite as much. Then we move on to Usyk. I have him here because he became undisputed in a division, moved up, and then obtained more titles to become a unified champion. So that's 8 belts in his career thus far. And the only reason Tyson Fury is above him is because he has more wins over another ace, but he also has the lineal title, which is a very prestigious thing to wield. And he has obtained all the titles before in his career. And then lastly, we end with wins over aces, which remains the same as the accomplishments in general tab. Joshua has lost to the only ace he's faced. Wilder lost twice, but to the best ace, and he managed to draw him, even if it was controversial. Usyk defeated 1 ace, and Tyson Fury has 2 wins. So that puts him clearly at the top so far. Hopefully we see more of these guys interact with each other, but you never know. with Fury announcing his retirement. Hopefully it was just empty words, but we'll see. The heavyweight division has a bright future, with so many potentially thrilling matchups. Regardless of who wins Usyk Joshua 2, hopefully we'll see the winner get a super fight against Tyson Fury for undisputed status, whereas the loser should go on to face Wilder. So long as the best continue to fight the best, there's a ton of promise in these years to come. With all that said, I'm gonna try and upload once a week, but don't hold me to that. Thanks for watching. See ya.